G'day and welcome to Kenty Blitz, your daily hit of NRL news. Kenty, it's been one of the biggest weeks in NRL in a long time. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, but a lot about the games. So we'll just start off at the top. Obviously, there's been quite a bit of discussion on Newcastle, not only with Adam O'Brien, but do they have a plan up there? And so, Kenty, you know, you've seen the club for a long time now, kind of wallow for probably for the last few decades, really. Do you think they have a plan, and what do you think that plan is?
I think they've got a plan,
okay,
which is different from having a plan. Look, there's no doubt that the Knights are in trouble. Adam O'Brien spoke earlier today. He's now confirmed he's going to finish the season out. It looks all fairly amicable. He's leaving of the club. And as I said yesterday, I think the job just was too big for him, what he had to do. Mm-hmm. I don't think he had the support around him. And the problem with the Knights is there's so much, like they need help on, do all of the above. Okay? Yeah. It's everywhere. Andrew Johns wrote a column this morning, which I found quite interesting, where he basically said that a few weeks back he went up to the Knights and was taken through the club and shown their plans for the future. Peter Parr, who's the chief executive, Chris James, who's their head of football up there, they spoke to him about what they are planning. And Joey's column today I found quite interesting. It made the point, pretty much what we've been talking about, that there's not much there. That the Knights have lost their identity so much. They know the people who are there now no longer know who they are. They basically look like a bit of a facsimile of other clubs. Okay. And better perform clubs. And they're trying to copy what other clubs are doing, but the copy's not quite up to what the original is. One thing he spoke about, for example, purgatory players. Now, he calls them purgatory players, Joey, which is essentially players who are too good to be playing State Cup every week, reserve grade, but are not quite good enough to hold their position in the NRL every week. And one of the problems the Knights have had for some time now, I would even dare say go back before Adam O'Brien's time, is that they go out and recruit these players. Now, these guys are a dime a dozen, particularly in the Newcastle catchment area.
Okay.
So for them to go out and actually recruit these players, generally meaning they're paying overs to get them to the club, really questions, I think, their whole strategy around how they recruit, who they recruit. To me, it shows a club that doesn't really know where it's at. So that's one area that the club has really got to improve upon. The new coach, whoever that will be, certainly that's one of the jobs he's got to start looking at. He also spoke about the fact that they've got to go through and they've got to start, the plans, and Peter Parr revealed plans to basically start putting centres of excellence around the Newcastle catchment area, as far like up the mid-north coast, as far up to there, in through the coalfields, which is where Cessnock and whatnot, where Joey and Matty and that are from, and Danny, Billy Peden from, and that's crucial to the Knights. The Knights, as we said, they've got a great catchment area, used to, but they've let it wither away, and they no longer can rely upon these players. The players they're recruiting in Newcastle are players that were always just naturally there.
Okay.
And what you needed to do was to go around and then just put a little bit of a touch on who you've recruited to just improve the areas where you're weak. Now, they think they're doing that. They went out and paid. Look, let's remember, they paid a lot of money for Kalen Ponga when he first came to the club, paid well over what he was worth at the time. Now, he's since gone on and become that player. So it looks like he's getting value for money. But it's also, they have a strategy of actually putting so much money into Ponga, it weakens their other areas. So the spine, every club knows how crucial a spine is. Newcastle got so much money invested in one player in the spine. It's really suffered how effective they've been able to go out into the market for other players in the spine. Now, the response to that is to go out and pay an absolute fortune for Dylan Brown, okay, who's another spine player. But between the pair of them, that they are taking up so much of the salary cap now next season, that it's going to be really hard for Newcastle to sort of put anything around them of any quality, which essentially is going to mean they're going to get more of those purgatory players that Andrew Johns is alluding to.
Well, they say the salary cap's about 11.25, I think, and they're saying both of those players, is well over kind of 2.6, 2.7.
Yeah, so they're taking over 20% of the salary cap, 2 players. So it's way out of whack. Now, the way out for Newcastle is to develop. The way out is to this long-term plan that Peter Parr revealed is to develop and to start putting more money into their juniors, to put more development into their juniors, to put real quality coaching into their juniors. So by the time they come through the club and they're ready for NRL, they're within the system. They understand the Newcastle style of football, which that's something else that's been spoken about. That what is their style other than a bad copy of good teams? That's where it needs to go, and it's a long-term project. And the club needs to articulate that and actually get fans on side and let them know what they're doing. Now that's now going to come down. A lot of that's going to come down to the coaching. I spoke to a friend of mine yesterday. He spoke about, which I found quite, I think something we've all overlooked. When you're at a club and you're doing any kind of elite coaching, to be honest, you generally have one voice that you've got 3 or 4 people around. So a lot of talk is Adam O'Brien would not do all the talking, like most head coaches, and he would let his other coaches and assistants have their say. But essentially, it was all the message was from the same hymn book, okay? And you would, okay, guys, this is what we're preaching. This is what we're going to do. This is what we're trying to implement. And whether it was the head coach or the assistant coach doing it, they were all on the same page. And you can assume that the coaching staff have come to that direction kind of together. Like, it's not like the head coach is a dictator and this is the way we're going to do it. Now, he's obviously got final say and he's got the most influential say. Yep. But certainly he takes his assistants' opinions in on that. Now, if that's the case, and this is the bit that staggers me, why are they looking at Blake Green? Blake Green's been part of this system now for some years that has failed. Okay, so, and he's been preaching the same thing. Now, Blake Green he'll definitely say in his job interview, no, I want to do things differently. But then you say, okay, well, you want to do things differently, but you're our attack coach. We've got the worst attack in the NRL. So what else are you going to bring? Because often in the way clubs work is the attacking coach will say to the head coach, look, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you reckon? Now, they don't always win those battles, but often they do. I would say they win those battles more often than not because the head coach will trust the assistants because that's his specialty to come up with a variance that might work, and they'll give him a go. Now, Blake Green's been there, and for the life of me, I just don't know how they're going to do that. Dylan Brown coming next year will improve their attack somewhat because he's an attacking player, and he's an elite attacking player.
There was an article in the paper yesterday or this morning saying that there was a bit of pushback from former Newcastle players about Blake Green and whether his experience was there. Obviously,
I think they're talking about what I was just referring to.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So, and I spoke to a couple of Newcastle players who said the place is a mess. Yep, it's disorganised. They have no clear direction. However, Chris James came from the Roosters. He used to be the head of football there. He started at the start of this year. Used to be a referee for 11 years. So you would think from some, small kind of win for them is Peter Parr goes into that CEO position and then Chris James, we don't know how good he is or not, but at least he has a football background. And you've got to say, to do your tutelage at the Roosters as head of football there, then there is a chance for Newcastle. But is it a time now where it's a crucial decision for them, right? Yeah, they can't keep going on because you wallow down the bottom and it's very difficult to get back up the table.
If you take out the one season when Wayne Bennett was there and he got them to within a game of the grand final, it's been a lean trot for the Knights. They have really not given any hope for anybody in the blue and red for many, many years. You'd be nearly going decades now. Like it's been a long, long time since Newcastle were any kind of consistent threat, and the club has lost its way. So, I think it's crucial. It's interesting because the other thing Joey did say, he was unsure whether the coaching solution was one of these new bright coaches that we all speak about, or whether it's a veteran coach that's been around and knows how to
a hard ass.
Well, someone that knows how to put a system in place. Because the one thing I think Newcastle, which is apparent, which it's not getting a lot of airtime, it's not the coaching of the NRL team that's the problem with the club. And this is, I think, where Adam O'Brien came unstuck. It's not the coaching of the NRL team. That's the result. That's what we all see. And that's the end result of everything else that's going wrong at the club, which is putting in the systems and putting in this infrastructure that allows players who are Newcastle born-bred, Hunter Valley born-bred, who come through the system. By the time they're 15, they know what Knights football looks like. They know what's required to make it in the Knights system. And they do that, and so at 15, you've got X amount of players. At 17, that group has got a bit smaller, but they're still elite. At 19, they're starting to get smaller group again, but they're pushing for first grade, some of them.
Yeah.
And then by the time they're all 21, you've had 6, 7 of them, hopefully. They're all sort of in or around that already in the top 30 squad, and who are pushing for spots in the first grade team. And the way that helps you is because if they're coming through your system, it takes tremendous pressure off your salary cap because they're coming through, they're invested in the club, they want to stay at the club, they see success at the club, so they stay there, and they'll stay there for generally less than what you've got to do to get a player of the same quality to leave another club to come to you. And all those little savings you make then allow you to just put a little bit extra on a quality player that you want to bring in, or spend the whole lot on an entire player to come into your club. That's just going to bring you that little bit of class that you need to take that next step. And that's when, for the life of me, I can't understand why Newcastle have been unable to fix that problem. It's been happening for so long. I think they almost resist the old boys giving advice sometimes. Yeah, okay. It's almost like they get the shits with them and say, sick of
those times are gone.
Those times are gone. Old boys are whinging. But the one thing that, when Alan McMahon first came into the Knights, he was the first head coach in 1988. Every player that was signed with Newcastle, they had a simple philosophy. They had to have 2 T's. They had to have toughness, and they had to have tomorrows. That was the rule.
Yeah, wow.
If you didn't have toughness or tomorrows, you didn't make the team. And unfortunately for you to go through that Knights squad now, there's not a lot of players with the 2 T's.
So by tomorrows, you mean a chance to develop into a better player?
Well, just you're a young kid. You've got a big future.
Yeah.
That's it. You've got a future at the club.
Yeah.
You've got a future in the NRL. Everyone can see that you're going to be a player who's going to play 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, hopefully, of NRL football. The Knights are signing these purgatory players that Andrew Johns alluded to, who are guys who, they'll come in, they'll do a job, they'll play 7 or 8 games a year. They might play 18 games a year if there's a few injuries, but they're not really going to win you those games. They're not going to make a difference in those games. They're just going to go out and do their job, and then when better players happen along, they're going to go back and play State Cup. And the joint's full of them.
Interesting concept, that tomorrow, because, you always hear coaches when they come to a club, they say, we've got some great young players coming up.
Yeah.
But we need to sign some older heads.
Yeah. Well, the older, that's the toughness. You do need that, yeah.
A lot of raised eyebrows when I hired Gary as my new bodyguard. The guy really offers something unique. Just like the PointsBet app. It's all about offering something different, like a better, faster way to bet on all your favorite sports.
She's good to go, mate.
PointsBet, built different. Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
You juxtapose that to Melbourne, right? Bellamy this week is coaching his 600th game, made 22 of the last 23 finals appearances.
Yep.
And had 7 Dally M Coaches of the Year, 3 premierships, etc. He is the pin-up boy for coaches, but he couldn't have done it without the structure behind him, right? The Frank Benicis and the Matt Tripps, etc. You look at those guys, or you look at that club as a way to do it, and then you look at Newcastle and you think, how have you got that so wrong?
Yeah.
As a professional club in the modern era.
Problem with the Knights, mate, is they let it go. They had it. They had it there at one point. They've had other coaches there. They had good systems. They did have the best juniors in the game at one point. Look, Bellamy's got there. Bellamy went into a club that was in pretty good shape. Bellamy was very lucky. Like, if you go back to when I say very lucky, he was probably smart is a better word. He was offered the West Tigers job. Okay. The year before he went to Melbourne. And he knocked it back. Now, he was the modern day Josh Hannay or the modern day Jason Riles. Okay. He'd been assistant to Wayne Bennett for quite some time. He was ready to coach first grade. Everybody knew that. He actually went for the Canberra job, if you can believe it, and lost to Matthew Elliott. Okay. And Laurie Day was on the committee there. We'll never let Laurie live that down. But
I like number 49, Matthew Elliott. I love Matthew Elliott, but
but Craig Bellamy was actually offered the West Tigers job, had a look at the operation, and just thought, this needs too much work for a rookie coach.
Right.
Okay. And he knew he's a rookie coach. He knew his limitations, which I think is a testament to his character. A lot of these young coaches now, they think they can change the world. They have this I suppose it's a common theme among the young these days, that this confidence that they can just overcome anything without really any basis to put that on.
Well, the other thing about that, Kenny, is there's not many NRL gigs, right? So if you're a young bloke and you're never really going to go to a good club, because you're never going to go to Melbourne, really.
Well, occasionally that do come up because, Melbourne one will come up. It'll come up in a year or two.
But there's been a lot of blokes waiting for that.
I know that, but they do come up. But Bellamy had the patience to say to West Tigers, no, I'm not going to take it.
Yep.
And then when Melbourne came, and it wasn't because they were going so poor, they weren't doing greatly at the time, but Mark Murray was the coach. And he basically had enough and wanted out. But the club was in still reasonably good shape.
They also had all those Super League players from the Hunter Mariners and
they did. So they were a strong club.
I guess the thing about Bellamy is he has turned over, his big 3 or big 6 or his spines many times.
That's what Bellamy's been able to do. Bellamy has been able to succession plan. And he had Cameron Smith who kept playing and playing and playing. But they put a thing. Okay, he's 33 now, 34. So we need a hooker. They went out and they found Harry Grant. They've been very good at doing at those key positions, getting a player to come in and replace him. Now,
Cooper Cronk, Hughes, Slater, Pappenhausen, it's just
But one thing they have done too, Warren, is the Knights, the Storm, spent a lot of money on their junior players. So I remember talking to Coach years back about it, and about a couple of players coming through juniors and whether they should have a look at them, and they're already signed by Melbourne.
What, like a Tyron Wishart kind of person, or younger than them?
Like a Greg Inglis.
Right.
So when Greg Inglis was coming through, for example, who else was there? Israel Folau was another one. Okay, those sorts of players. Their talent was obvious. At the junior football carnivals, it was identifiable. And clubs were offering players 20 grand. Melbourne came in, here's 60 grand. You know what I mean? Now, they paid way overs at that age to get players. But a couple of things on that. One, their judgment was pretty much spot on. And 2, for that extra 40 grand that they paid then, the deal looked like a steal. Okay, once they get to NRL level, you say, mate, for 40 grand we could have had him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
You know what I mean?
The Storm probably had to do that though because they had no juniors, right?
So they had to kind of do. Yeah, that's part of it. Yeah,
if you've got young blokes coming through, the pressure for clubs is not picking their right junior, and they let the junior go, and
But-
then everyone goes, well, how the hell did you let that
Yeah,
guy go?
but
you know?
but the elite juniors, to be fair, mate, the elite juniors.
Are a standout.
Well, they're a standout, and every club goes to the junior football carnivals,
Yeah.
identifies that player, and
Yeah.
you don't always get that advantage. Okay, like I know this sounds a little bit different to what I was saying earlier, but Greg Inglis goes there and it becomes a bidding war in junior football. Okay, Israel Folau was a bidding war for him, and yeah, whereas for example, another one, Cameron Munster. There was a lot of, we're not sure if he's going to make it. Okay, so there was no bidding war for Cameron Munster as a junior footballer. Now, so the benefit of your own development then is because he was in the Storm system. Okay, well he's coming along okay. By the time they went, you know what, this kid can play. He was already well entrenched in the Storm system. And they had first access to him, and they had the inside running to keep him at the club. And he was happy to do that then. So that's the benefit. Like the superstar kid at 17, like the Inglis or the Folau, who is going to be at 17 playing schoolboy football one year and playing grand finals and Origin a year or two later, you don't really have an advantage there. That just becomes a cash grab. But you do get the guys like the Cameron Munsters, for example, who come along slowly, and no one's quite sure if they're going to make it at 18 or 19. By the time they're 20 or 21, 22, suddenly, yes, this kid can play, and their transition is probably a little bit slower, which allows you to keep them at the club.
Is that like a Jonathan Thurston example when he played for Canterbury and went up to North Queensland?
Well, yeah. Thurston was actually offered to the Roosters way back when.
Right.
Roosters knocked him back. He went to Canterbury. And look, Canterbury identified him, but what Canterbury did, they were at the salary caps through the salary cap scandal.
Yeah, okay.
And they just couldn't afford to keep him. And the Cowboys, they recognised what a talent he was, so they brought him up to there. But again, he came through the Canterbury system, and they had a very, very good system, the Bulldogs. They let it
Fallen away a bit.
They let
They're
it
trying
fall
to get
away.
it back, yep.
Well, it's coming back, and it's coming back fast. Like their numbers, not their numbers. The level of quality of their juniors, their junior teams are starting to go well again.
Okay.
Which is it just helps your club so much. And this is what Newcastle, they just surrendered all that, and I don't know why, because it was there for them. All they do is just put a bit of love out in the area, put a bit of money out in the area. Now it's great that the club has recognised that. Peter Parr, hopefully he can stick around for a while. He's a football guy. And when I say that, rugby league went through this crisis of conscience years back where we thought we're not smart enough. So we went and got all these people from outside rugby league who were board members and directors and all this sort of business.
Moneyball kind of concept, was
Well,
it?
no, it was just they just tried to get people who were successful in other
Right.
aspects of business. But these people loved it. Yeah, I want to be part of the footy club because it gave them a bit of status.
Free car park at the game.
Free car park, gave them free food and drink in the corporate box.
Yeah.
But they know nothing about footy. They know they don't know what a footballer looks like. They don't know. Couldn't find the pointy end of the football, most of it.
Yeah.
Okay, but so they did that. But then what we've realised after a while, and this went right to the very top too. Remember, we got Dave Smith in as the banker, who had no background in rugby league. But we
TV
thought
guy
that,
as well, yeah.
I thought that made us look smarter. But in the end, what happened, mate, was what we need is people who know the business of football.
Yeah, great chat. Hopefully we've solved the problems for the for the Knights. It's match preview time now, so now it's time for this. Okay, Kenty. Well, there's been a lot of talk about tonight's game. The Dogs.
Do we call it a game?
Yeah, well, I just want to talk about that quickly because the Panthers have copped a lot of criticism for dropping players
Yeah, I
from
support
different
the
parts.
Panthers. I like what I like what the Panthers have done.
What about the concept that, from Patrick Delaney from Fox Sports said it reduces the interest in the game?
It does.
And so what about the idea when the big broadcast deal's coming up and it could affect the players? Won't matter?
Won't matter. They won't. Look, the one thing about the broadcasters, mate, they'll eat each other to get the deal. Okay, They won't give a rat's ass about that. So Delaney's saying that because he's speaking from the point of view that he wants he's disappointed from Fox because it'll get terrible numbers. Okay, so be it.
He probably also has to say that too because he's got blokes above him who are saying,
he's got
come on.
he's got a financial interest in it.
Yeah.
Okay, because he's paid for the game. So I understand his disappointment.
Yep.
But the flip side of it is, if Penrith go all the way through the grand final,
Yep.
this what's happening today will be a big part of that, and it will add interest to the grand final. But Fox won't have that, so bad luck.
All right. So the last time so Panthers are playing $8.
Yeah.
Last time
I had a look at this.
Did
Yeah,
you?
yeah. Statmate, a little stat. The last time anyone was paying more than $8 to win a game, I actually thought it might be some time ago. It was actually round one this year, Parramatta against Melbourne down in Melbourne. So they were $8.50. So it's not that long ago. It's only round one this year. That said, Melbourne led 46-6 at half time. So
I remember watching that game thinking, how the hell
yeah,
is this season going to play out?
Oh, look, I think, we all know what's going to happen tonight. So, but you know what, Penrith.
I want to ask you: is there any pressure on the Dogs? Right, because they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. Right? If they lose this, everyone will be.
Look, they won't lose it. I don't think there's pressure on them to play well. From Serraldo's point of view, he will be saying, "Guys, don't be distracted by the fact they are not putting out a side. We have things that they will have their own indicators within performance indicators within the game that they will be looking at, and he will not excuse them failing to get there based on the opposition. In fact, they might be higher based on the opposition. So he will be looking for them to sort of hit their mark on a variety of things, and if they don't, there'll be no excuse. So I expect a pretty good performance from Canterbury. Being this close to the finals, if it was mid-season, I could kind of see how they might fade away, but or be less than their best. But this close to the finals, they need to be on point.
They might play them into form.
I think they're in form. I think they found form last week.
In the second half. Interesting. Okay, so tomorrow night the Warriors, $1.57, play the Eels, $2.40. Warriors at home.
Look, I'll tell you what, they're just still getting the job done, the Warriors. That's ugly what they're doing, but it's understandable given the injuries that they've got and where they're at and just how difficult they're finding to replace Luke Metcalf. But they're still getting the job done. I like the Warriors. They are just a good, honest team.
Okay, then the second game, which could have been a bit of a blockbuster, but the Storm have rested some players. So the Storm, $1.67, still favourites, down in Melbourne against the Roosters, paying $2.20.
Yeah, well, the Roosters just have to stay in the fight. Look, they're trying to stay ahead of the Dolphins to stay in the 8. They've had a tough week. I found it fascinating that one of the player managers has come out anonymously and had a go at Brandon Smith for bringing the Roosters and upsetting their week and saying that the Roosters are now off Brandon Smith. Well, you know what? From that, if you look at it from strictly that point of view, I don't think Brandon Smith did anything wrong in regard to the Roosters. He didn't name anyone or didn't even identify the Roosters, so it's not his fault there. I think the Roosters, if you read the copy, reached out to him, so the Roosters player. So that said, they've had a tough week, the Roosters. They've sort of battened down a little bit.
That kind of stuff galvanise teams, you think?
Yeah, it can, depending on how they deal with it internally, if they're honest and upfront about it. But
interesting to read that they went in-house yesterday and they trained inside at Allianz, not
outside.
outside.
That was just to get away from cameras, to be honest.
Yeah.
Look, they completed 54% last week, okay, which was terrible. I think it was the worst of the season for any team. Okay, so they need to pick their game up this week. They'll do that. Last week, the loss of Sam Walker really disrupted them. He's not playing this week, but they are, they've had a week of solid training. The team is settled as much as the other stuff has interfered with it around the team. So I think the Roosters will put in a good show.
I know they're all big boys and it's part of the game, Kenty, but Sandon Smith got dropped, told he's not wanted at the club, and now he's put back in. Does it matter?
Well, he's playing for a contract, so he wants to play well.
Okay.
But they don't go well against Melbourne's the other thing, so you'd have to tip Melbourne there. All
right, let's move on to Saturday. The Raiders, $1.20, playing the Tigers, $4.60. Obviously, the Tigers are going to come down, and they've got to come down off a big week last week where they win that, there's still a chance for the finals. Now they're no chance.
No, it's going to be interesting to see how emotionally they respond, whether the energy's up or whether they they feel flat because the season's over.
If you're the Tigers, are you happy with this season? I mean, they've won 5 more games this year than they won last year.
Yeah, that's a positive.
Yep.
They're going in the right direction.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so Tamale's back for Xavier Savage.
Great result, yeah. Look, he's a good player, Tamale. He's a firecracker, so I like him. And if you, unfortunately, you lost Savage, but if you're going to get someone like Tamale,
he was our Rookie of the Year up until he got injured in round 14.
he was in the running for NRL Rookie of the Year,
Yep.
yeah. So I'll tell you what, no, he's a terrific young player.
5:30 tomorrow, the Dragons play the Sea Eagles at Cogra.
5:30
Saturday.
Saturday, yep.
5:30 Saturday, the Dragons play the Sea Eagles. Who you got in that? Both teams playing $1.90 on PointsBet.
Yeah, dog of a game for me.
Game of pride.
How much do they have left?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Dragons came down heavy last week.
Look, I've been liking what the Dragons have been doing until last week. Now, so that makes it a hard game. I think the Sea Eagles,
they know they're gone.
They've lost interest in the season as well. That's I've got the game holds no interest for me now.
Okay, not watching.
I'll probably watch it, but I might play cards while I'm watching.
I get it, Kenty. Okay, Cowboys $2.60 playing the Broncos $1.50.
Broncos got to keep winning. They've got to keep their way, keep their form. They've got to keep that upward trend that they're trying to find heading into the final. See, I don't think the Broncos can win the comp, but they need to win this game, and they need to sort of just sit, stay in that. They won't make the top 4. But
Chance Adam Reynolds is back, which will be interesting what they do there.
Well, they'll play him if they can have him.
Yeah, but just how they move around the playmakers. Yeah. It could be an important game on Sunday. The Sharks $1.13 playing the Knights $6. I mean, obviously, the turmoil at the Knights, whether that brings them together or not. But the Sharks need to win. They're still a potential to make the top 4.
Yeah, I know.
A slim chance.
Yeah, they are. It's a funny one, isn't it? The Sharks, look, the Warriors, we don't know where they're at. The Warriors drop a game, which they can do. They're capable of doing. And the Sharks just keep doing what they're doing. They can pinch their spot. So, look, I think, again, I'm more interested to see how the Knights react this week. It's going to be pretty interesting. The 2 Sunday games are both running out coaches who have been sacked this week. So I think the Titans will handle the sacking of Des better than the Knights will. I think the Knights... Yeah, the Knights they're just such a wishy-washy squad to me. Okay, they're a side that they've got real no identity. So
Still can't decide on their 6 and 7.
Well, they've got no 6 and 7. That's their problem.
Yeah.
They've got no 6 and 7. So, but just the way they play their football, as I said, they're a bad copy of better teams. Anyway, I don't think the Knights can do anything this week against the Sharks. I think the Sharks will take the sword to them.
Final game of the day was the Dolphins-Titans.
Yeah, look, I think the Titans will be up for it, actually. I like what Tino said yesterday about it. He came out and he basically said that the only 2 people who have been held accountable for the failings at the Titans, Justin Holbrook, who got sacked a couple of years ago, and now Des Hasler, who's been sacked. And I think that's really good leadership. He's really
refreshing,
impressive.
isn't it? Refreshing to hear that.
Malawi is a really inspirational leader. He's everything that club needs. And the fact that he's put it back on the club.
Do you think that's opening the door to leave maybe to Perth?
Not really.
No.
I think he'll have a look at Hannay next season, see how he is, see how it fits, see whether he can see some improvement there. And if he does, he'll stay. Because, look, the Perth are not going to come in doing it easy. Okay, they're going to come in there. I think Perth are going to have a lot of lean years based on how difficult the NRL is making it for them to recruit. So as poorly as the Titans are going, I think they're going to be a better place than what Perth are. That said, they've got to build around blokes like Tino, who wants accountability from his players. I want to see that on Sunday. It'd be interesting. Sunday's going to be a big test to see how both teams, Knights and Titans, react to what's happened to their coach, how much accountability they take on themselves.
Responsibility, yep.
Yeah, and responsibility.
Yep.
And what effort they show then in response to that. That to me, it's not so much about the result, it's about the character that they show when they play. And I actually think if I'm one of the movers and shakers at either club, the head of football, future coach, whatever, I'm looking at how both those teams respond this week, and I'm looking at individually how players respond this week and to see what they do.
Kenty, it's been a big week.
Been a ripper.
You need a Bex and a lie down this afternoon after that. I'll tell you what, there's been some crazy stories this week. And, anyway, it's been good to be here.
It's
And
the rugby league soap opera.
that's rugby league. Thanks very much, everybody. Good luck with your tips on the weekend, and we'll see you Monday. Cheers.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.